Welcome to the Clay Edwards Show. More adrenaline.
You know, it's a pretty interesting time to be alive. What's the saying that made the times you live in be interesting? We have accomplished that.
And more testosterone for your morning drive.
But when you know you've got a problem, how about tell people and be honest? What's going on?
Going to war on cancel culture and bringing the spotlight on issues and topics from around the city of Jackson.
I feel like Jackson, Mississippi.
No one else wants to talk about.
The whole system is corrupt and evil. It's unreal, and they don't care. And everybody knows that. It's just sad.
And fights for the soul of America.
I'm going to need y'all to explain to me what a positive solution is, because you positive solutions only people have been in charge for a while now, and I'm not seeing too many positive solutions.
You never met a mother quite like me.
Strap in, turn up the volume, and get ready, Jackson, for unfiltered, no sugar added talk radio. Broadcasting live from the Generator Power Solutions studio. It's award-winning podcaster Clay Edwards.
All right, welcome to the Clay Edwards Show. We are live here in the Generator Power Solutions studio at 103.9 WYAB. As always, if you want to call in the show today, you can reach us on the Black Axis Throwing Club phone line at 601-879-0002. I've got some special guests in here. I've been looking forward to this all week. I actually got lucky and ran into one of these guys at lunch by pure happenstance yesterday and ended up talking for about 45 minutes. I'm like, man, we ain't gonna have nothing to talk about tomorrow. But I've got Hines Rankin D.A, Bubba Bramlett. Bubba, how you doing?
It's Rankin Madison.
I'm sorry, Rankin Madison. Oh, anyhow. And then I've got legal counsel for the Rankin County Sheriffs Department, Mr. Paul Holley.
Morning.
How y'all doing?
Doing great. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I guess it would help if I turned y'all's mics on there. When you start doing radio and you've never done it before, they teach you. They come in, they throw it all at you. Like, here's the kitchen sink, and a bunch of buttons. Oh, hey. So we've got Bubba and Paul with us today, man. How's everything going, guys?
Everything's going really good. You know, it's a big week this week with Law Enforcement Appreciation Week, and we got that started Monday, and we've got things going on all week, and it's one of my favorite times of the year because it's all about those men and women out there with boots on the ground, and we love them to death, and this is the one week that we get to celebrate them.
Yeah, it is awesome. Paul, how about you, man?
Everything's going good. As Bubba said, Law Enforcement Appreciation Week. He and Michael Guest started things off on Monday. We appreciate them. They had a breakfast over in Rankin County, lunch over in Madison. Just to help getting some of these men and women in there, showing them that they are appreciated, despite what they may see on the news, that locally here, they're very much appreciated.
Yeah, I saw the pictures from the luncheon out there at Georgia Blue. What a nice setup, and the whole deal was really cool. You mentioned the news and the perception of law enforcement nationwide, and I'm gonna tell you, and granted, obviously, I'm not a law enforcement officer, but I run with a bunch of people and I see a bunch of things, and I think Mississippi, is it as bad here as it is everywhere? Because I don't feel like it is.
It's not. It's nothing like what you're seeing on the national level. Now, I'm sure there are pockets within Mississippi that have it, but for the most part, law enforcement is so appreciated here, and especially in Rankin and Madison County, we don't see any of that.
Yeah. Even back over the summer, with Mississippi gets such a bad rap for our racial past and all that stuff. Even back over the summer when they had we actually had the one real peaceful protest with the BLM stuff and all that, downtown Jackson, no issues, no problems. And it was actually made me really proud that we could have that here in Mississippi, because you would think that this would be the epicenter of all that type stuff, and it's really not. We get a bad rap for it.
We do, and it's undeserved, and it's the people giving all that out. They've never been here.
No. So I live in Jackson, and that's kind of how I got my start doing all this, was talking about the things I see in Jackson. And one of the things we talked about off air was for law enforcement and the prosecution side to work well, you got to work well together. Those guys got to know that you've got their back. Like, hey, man, we got to keep this guy off the street. This cannot be a catch and release program. And we're seeing that time and time again. in some neighboring cities around here where it's just catch and release, and those same people, you come to find out, are the same ones, shockingly, committing the crimes again, particularly high-impact crimes or murders and shootings and stuff of that nature. What's different about Rankin and Madison County that prevents that?
Well, first of all, it's not something that just started. There's been a long line of sheriffs and chiefs of police and district attorneys throughout the last, really forever, in Rankin and Madison County. And it's just a priority. It's a priority. Law and order is a priority. Safety, public safety is the priority. And I'm serious when I say that. You talk to the mayors of these towns and your boards of aldermen and your boards of supervisors, their number one priority is public safety. Because once you have that, everything else falls into place. You have good churches. You have good schools. People are looking for a safe place to live, and you're going to draw good people who want a good place to raise their child, send them to school, and know they're safe. So everything blossoms from that core, that very principle of public safety, and that's something I recognize. And it starts with those law enforcement officers that are boots on the ground, and I fully appreciate that they really are. It's not cliche. They're putting their lives on the line every day. They know when they leave, they may not come home. And if they're doing that for you and doing that for me, they deserve for me to have their back. And if they make an arrest and they've put their life on the line, then they deserve nothing but the best we've got to offer from a prosecution standpoint and from a judicial standpoint.
Yeah, so, and I think the most recent incident with Brad Sullivan would be a great reminder of that.
Oh, look, that's the day I'll never forget. It's one of the worst days of my life, and I'm not law enforcement. I know you had Sheriff Tucker on here yesterday. To see what they all went through firsthand, golly, as bad as it was, we were really lucky. Nobody lost their life, and I was out there that day. And Clay, we had. I'll tell you something. First of all, you had 6 cars that were shot up, and initially, I was going to charge or recommended that we do attempted murder on Brad's and go aggravated assault on the other deputies that were shot at. Mm-hmm. But when I went and looked at each one of those cars and the tight groupings of the bullets that were fired and where they were, there was intent to kill behind every single one of those bullets. And that's why we went with attempted murder on each and every one of them. That guy was a skilled shooter. We were really lucky. 90 rounds were fired from an automatic weapon. Yeah. And a lot of people, I don't know.
It had been modified correctly.
It had been modified
to be fully automatic.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
He had modified, and you know, and really, if you saw the tape with Brad, it wasn't so much a gunfight at that point as it was almost like a sniper fire. I mean, he was shot while he was driving that vehicle. But to see that was a great example of our law enforcement. To see all of that go into action, they take Brad to University Medical Center. We don't know if he's going to live. We don't think he's going to live. He's shot twice in the head.
Helicopter, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And Sheriff Tucker goes with him. The next guy in line takes over, and it's like that the whole time, and just the logistics of that whole situation. You know, probably a 16-hour on the scene investigation. You had 2 different crime scenes. Just remarkable. And that's why we got the plea. People are like, why did that guy plead guilty when he got 210 years? Well, he didn't have to plead guilty.
Yeah.
But that was a rock-solid investigation from A to Z.
Man, look, when I was doing my little research to talk to Sheriff Tucker yesterday, and I kind of ran across the nuts and bolts of some of that, and I saw the 210 years, and I knew that, but to read it again, a little removed from it, it's like, man, he will die in prison, which I think is probably more fitting than being put to death in prison, because he's got to sit it out and ride it out every day. And I'm a fan of, not say a fan, that's a bad way to say it. I'm a proponent of the death penalty when need be. But to get a guy like that that's going to die spend a long time in prison and die there, I think it's a fitting end to that guy.
No doubt. And I got a lot of questions on the front end. Why aren't you going for the death penalty? Well, I can't, because nobody died.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
That's only a capital murder, correct?
That's right. And had Brad died, rest assured we would have gone for the death penalty.
All right. Absolutely. Look, we need to take a break real quick. When we come back, I want to ask you about the death penalty stuff. You've gotten 2 this century, or 2
That's
convictions.
Right.
So
that's right.
When we come back, we're going to talk about that. You were listening to the Clay Edwards Show here on 103.9 WYAB. All right. Welcome back to the Clay Edwards Show. We are live in the Generator Power Solutions studio here at 103.9 WYAB. This segment is brought to you by Lakeland Glass and Tint. Go see Jason Anderson and the team out there on Lakeland Drive, where quality matters. 601-946-1000, whether it's window tint or windshields. Heck, even if you need your house or business tinted, Lakeland Glass and Tint should be your only call. 601-946-1000. All right, Bubba, before we went to break, we were talking about the Brad Sullivan shooting.
Yeah.
And the fella getting 210 years. You said you'd had some people ask you why he didn't get the death penalty. Well, nobody died.
That's correct.
But he got the equivalent of the death penalty, the death by 1,000 paper cuts version of it.
No doubt about it.
And we mentioned that you've prosecuted 2 death penalty cases. There's some, I guess, some great. Maybe there was another one in '89, but for the most part, in the last 100 years, as far as we know, over in Rankin or Madison County.
Yeah, the first one was in 2003. Prosecuted a young man by the name of Devin Bennett. Devin killed his 10-week-old child, and we were successful in obtaining the death penalty on Devin's case. And then in 2018, we had an individual over in Madison County that we prosecuted by the name of Tony Clark, who was robbing a convenience store and shot a 13-year-old there in the store. And
you said that the clerk was on the phone.
On Tony Clark's case. Tony and his cousin went into this convenience store, and the owner of the store was actually letting his 13-year-old work the cash register for the first time, and the child's mother lived in another country. And so the father was FaceTime. He was behind the 13-year-old FaceTiming him so that the mother could see him working the cash register for the first time. And Mr. Clark came in and shot him in the head. Didn't ask for the money. Didn't say a word to him. Just came in and shot him. So not only was he shot right there in front of his father, but his mother witnessed the whole thing on FaceTime.
My God.
It was awful.
I mean, just hearing that, it's like you can't. You don't see that in a Hollywood movie.
You don't.
That's terrible. If I'm the mother, I almost have to think I'm being punked.
Yeah.
Until you realize that it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the odds?
That's right.
So
it was.
His cousin was with him, you said?
Yeah.
So an accessory, what would he be charged with?
He was an accessory. Now, he could have. We could have charged him as a principal, and gone after him too. We didn't. I can't remember what he got. He got a lot of time. We didn't go after the death penalty on him. He was a lookout primarily, and I think he thought they were going to rob the store. I think he did know they were going to rob the store. I don't think he had any idea that his cousin was fixing to kill a 13-year-old.
Man, that's terrible. Look, there's no way to transition from that. But one of the things we talked about earlier was, put folks in jail, there's got to be a rehabilitation side of that.
That's right. I mean, there are, first of all right, there are bad people in this world.
Absolutely.
And there are bad people that need to go to prison for a long, long time. They're not going to rehabilitate. Those people do exist.
Yep.
And we send them.
Yep.
I make no apologies for that. On the other hand, most people can be rehabilitated, and we recognize that, and we have several alternative programs available to us, and we use them.
Well, some people are bad people, and some people are people that made bad decisions.
That's right.
You know, there's just
a difference.
There is, and I think that how we get those people back into society make a big difference. And y'all have got a program, Paul, right? Your trustee program.
Yes.
You want to tell us about that?
We currently operate a trustee program, and first of all, I want to say we're able to do this because of the cooperation we have, the sheriff's office, the DA's office, and the circuit judges. We all communicate, and we communicate well, and it allows us to have a successful trustee program. But what we do is these individuals that would normally go to prison will come back to the county, and they will work as trustees. Sheriff Bailey, Captain Barry Vaughn, administrator over the jail, do a fantastic job of running it. We get these individuals, they work, they come to the office, they go to different places and do work, and we try to work them back into society. Well, Sheriff Bailey had an idea a couple of years ago, and we started working on presenting a bill to the legislature to allow these individuals to not only work here, but to work off-site as they draw close to their release time. So as you know, you can let somebody out if they're paroled, if they're just let out. Well, they may not have walked in with a dime. Now they're going to walk back out without a dime. What are they going to do? They probably don't have their driver's license. They don't have transportation. They don't have anywhere to live. They're going to go right back into the familiar settings that they were in, what landed them in jail in the first place. So this new program, and the legislature passed it, and it allows Rankin County to pilot this program where they will be allowed to work. They will be allowed to keep their money. They will go through financial training programs. We'll work on getting their driver's license back. And oftentimes they'll be set up with a job before they ever leave.
And when you say work, just to be clear, we're talking about at a business, not just like cleanup, not just around the farm or where we're talking about real deal jobs in the community.
Yes, we're talking about actual jobs in the community. We have had a great outpouring of support from businesses in the community reaching out, asking us, hey, can you right now, you go to a lot of places, there's a help wanted sign up.
That was good. I was working towards that. I'm glad you said it.
So they're begging us to let some of these individuals come work for them. So it benefits the community, and it benefits these individuals to go ahead and get them ready. They can start while they're still technically in custody. It allows them to start that transition back into society so that they have something to work with when they're actually released.
So, and is there? I'm assuming there's a shuttle program to get them back and forth from the jail to work.
Yeah, we will arrange transportation for them.
So that they still stay the night in jail, but they go work and then go back to the jail.
That is correct.
That is interesting, but it's a great easing back into society and being ready.
Yeah,
you know.
And I will say that these individuals, these are ones that have been in the trustee program for a while. We have different levels of trustees. Obviously, when somebody comes in, they're at a beginning level. There's 3 different tiers. They will work their way up to it to show that they have earned that trust to be allowed, again, 6 months before they're released to go out and actually work at these businesses off the site.
Are there any disqualifiers for that? Is it nonviolent or anything like that?
Yes, this is nonviolent offenders that are a part of this program.
Great, man. That's good stuff, because I was sitting there thinking, there's been this big hubbub about people not wanting to go back to work, and, well, we don't want these jobs. Like, man, I know a big group of men and women that would probably love to have those jobs.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. And, again, the businesses are asking for them, and these individuals are ready to get out there and do it.
Because, I mean, I guess when you're not living your best life, you think about, well, man, if I ended up in jail, These are thoughts I had back in my hoodlum days. It's like, man, if I ended up in jail, I would go crazy sitting there staring at a wall and just having to hear all that racket and noise. Any kind of work would seem like a vacation compared to sitting in jail 24 hours a day.
I'll agree with that.
You know, so I see these guys on the side of the road cleaning up and stuff. I'm like, they're loving that right now. They are not upset that they're having to do that at all. I mean, easy for me to say, but still, that's a great program. I've brought up Benny Ivy and some of the stuff they do, and they have a similar program trying to get people reacclimated back in and trying to keep kids who may be in high danger zones from going to jail by doing the same thing, getting them placed in a job and teaching them life skills and stuff of that nature. And it's good to see people doing more than just talking or doing more than just locking people up.
Well, and both counties have great programs, and both have great ministry programs, and there's a lot of volunteers out there that offer certain things, and we take advantage of those in both counties. Take the best of what everybody has to offer, and I don't think Paul mentioned this, but when these guys are in that trustee program, they have so many things that they can take advantage of. They can earn certificates, and Paul, you know what all they are, but they teach them financial management. Of course, at the core, maybe early on you're teaching anger management, things like that. But near the end of it, you're learning financial management, learning how to, take care of your money and all of those things. So they're doing everything they can to equip these people, and it's been successful. And they're also putting their money where their mouth is, because there's trustees that have gotten out and been hired by the sheriff to work for them, been hired by the county. It's just a tremendous program.
That's stories I used to hear, growing up out in Byram and South Jackson. You used to hear stories about Sheriff McMillan doing stuff similar to that. And granted, this was 20-plus years ago. The guys that worked their way through the farm, through the trustee system, and he put his money where his mouth was too. And it's nice to see that being carried on over in Rankin and Madison counties. Well,
and these skills that they're learning, plumbers make really good money. They're not coming out making minimum wage. And I don't know, Paul, how many people are running through there at a time? Probably 80, 90, would you say?
That's about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, look, I'm going to tell you, working at a dealership, being one of the managers there, one of our hardest positions to fill are people who know how to work with their hands, mechanics, body men, all of that stuff. If I could go back and do it all again, or if I get an opportunity to get a kid's ear at any point, you got to decide real quick. If book smarts are your thing, that's great. Go do that. But if you know deep down that's not going to be your thing, you're just going so you can have some kind of general degree, go learn a trade. Go to Votech, learn diesel mechanics, these automotive technicians. They're not mechanics no more. They're the new IT guy.
That's right.
Yeah.
They're the computer guy from 20 years ago when everybody got into the computer business. If you can work on these newer, smarter cars, you can easily be the highest paid guy at the dealership under the owner, and on some months you can make more than the owner, because your pay's guaranteed, his isn't.
Exactly.
So the programs like that to help these guys learn a trade, that's how we really, pun intended here, it's how we save cities like Jackson and stuff. You get these guys reinserted into the communities with employment. All right, we're going to take a break. I'm joined today by Rankin Madison County D.A. Bubba Bramlett and I keep saying Hines. Rankin County Sheriffs Department Legal Counsel Paul Holley. We'll be right back on the Clay Edwards Show. All right, welcome back to the Clay Edwards Show here on 103.9 WYAB. Hey, real quick, man, I want to tell you guys, we have got an official realtor of the Clay Edwards Show now. I'd like to welcome Casey Bridges with Hopper Properties to the show. Casey will now be our official realtor, so y'all going to get to hear me talk about Hopper Properties and Casey Bridges a good bit. I met Casey at a homeless deal, the Shower Power charity. I met him down there. He was doing a big food drive. I think he got those guys 500 cans of food. I was like, man, me and you need to work together. I was like, you're the kind of guy that's putting your money where your mouth is, your time and efforts where you're in, where they need to be. I was like, that's what I try to do here, man. We linked up, and now we have an official realtor here on the Clay Edwards Show. You can reach Casey at hopperms.com. and I'm going to be putting all kind of information out there about him. But right now, we have got Bubba Bramlett and Paul Holley in the studio. And Bubba, one of the things you wanted to talk about was, some of the issues that law enforcement are dealing with right now, and we mentioned fentanyl.
Absolutely.
And I told you, I said, in my opinion, it was one of the unintended consequences to the crackdown on the opioid epidemic. Because now, of course, the black market's always going to figure out something. But how bad is it?
It's bad. I would say right now, in my opinion, from my perspective, it's the number one problem we got. In the past couple of years, there's been a movement not to send drug offenders to prison, look for alternative treatment. Well, I get that, and we have a lot of alternative programs for drug offenders, but not with fentanyl. If we have somebody that is arrested with fentanyl or selling fentanyl, distributing fentanyl, they're going to prison. The only way they're not going to prison is to go to trial and win.
Fentanyl is the being able to catch fentanyl now before it gets any worse would be the equivalent of having caught crack before it turned into what it turned into. We're on the cusp of it being, if we're not already there.
And here's the thing with fentanyl. You can experiment with it. I understand that people experiment with certain drugs. Your first time to take fentanyl, you very well may die. It's 1,000 times more powerful than morphine, and it's and sometimes I would say most of the time people probably don't know they're taking it, but they're getting these pills on the black market. It's not within the pharmaceutical industry; it's on the black market.
Let me tell people real quick: you can buy fake pressed pills from the hood that look just like those Lorcets and Norcos and Percocets and all that stuff y'all take, and guess what? It ain't from the pharmacy. It is from the ghetto pharmacy, as they say. And so don't take it at all, but definitely don't take it from the guy on the corner.
Yeah, if you don't have a prescription for it and it's not your drugs, don't take it, because and we're seeing more and more of it. If it's got fentanyl in it, and it doesn't take but a grain size of sand to kill you. We're seeing car fentanyl at the crime lab. We're getting stuff come back, car fentanyl. Car fentanyl has one purpose in the world. It's an elephant tranquilizer. It's 1,000 times more, I think more than 1,000 times more powerful than the fentanyl. But good people are dying from overdoses from this. And Paul can probably speak a little bit from the law enforcement perspective, but you've heard of Narcan. That's why these agencies carry Narcan.
And that's for people that don't know, that's the needle to put into the heart if somebody's having an overdose on the scene.
Ours is actually a nasal spray.
Okay.
So we received training a couple years ago and received a grant to receive several doses of this. So when you arrive on scene and you suspect that somebody has had an overdose, you take it just like a Flonase type thing, and you break the seal and squeeze it into their nose, and usually within seconds that they come back to. Sometimes it takes a couple doses.
But it works, and it's immediate, and they're saving lives with it. But this fentanyl, and I would say to parents or spouses, if you're suspecting, that your child or spouse may be using illegal drugs, don't touch it. If you touch these pills, it can go through your skin and it can kill you. It's that dangerous, and we're seeing cases where people think they're taking a Percocet or a Xanax or something, but it's got fentanyl in it, and they're dying.
Yeah. The opioid epidemic and the addiction to painkillers that's that white collar, it's that addiction that can get you and have the longest consequences of any of the others. And it happens, it's one thing if you're out and you, I guess, casually smoke some crack. You know what road you're going down when you do illicit, designer drugs of such. But when your doctor writes you some Lorcets or Norcos or whatever after surgery, you're like, you start getting mentally, and I'm telling you this from personal experience here. I'm speaking from personal experience. My colon ruptured back in 2014, and they took me for a run. And it is really, really hard to peel back off of that. And I can see where somebody would say, well, my doctor doesn't think I need that. He wants to move me to Tylenol 3 up from this and pull this down to only 10 of these a month or whatever. Well, I think I can get this somewhere else, and I can see where people start buying stuff illegally. And I'm just saying, do not do it. If you can avoid it at all costs, ever having to take an opioid, by all means do, because the physical and mental addiction to that drug is unlike anything you'll ever experience in your life.
Well, and the opioid crisis has called attention to that. But look, this isn't recent science. I started prosecuting in 1991, and the healthcare professionals were telling me that the addiction to opioids is the number one toughest thing they deal with, more than marijuana, crack cocaine, whatever. Those addiction to pills, and like you said, a lot of them start out with injuries from a car wreck or repercussions from a surgery or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And it becomes an addiction, and then at some point the doctors quit prescribing it, and then they go to the street to get these drugs, and next thing you know, they take something that, like I said, if it's got fentanyl in it, they're overdosing.
I don't say this to make light of it, but it reminds me of when the bath salt thing was going on a few years ago. It's like every time you turn around, you see somebody turn into a human zombie because they tried bath salts. Like, I haven't heard of not a single person say, man, those bath salts are really good. And I feel the same way about the fentanyl. You don't hear any good stories about fentanyl. Like, man, fentanyl I really enjoyed my night last night after taking that fentanyl. You don't hear any of that. Like, hey, I almost died, or hey, my family member or friend died last night because they took fentanyl.
Yeah, and I would say the majority of people don't even know that it's in there. But that's why don't take pills that you don't have a prescription for.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like one of those Captain Obvious things.
Yeah.
But I guess when you're in that moment and you're addicted and stuff, you start not rationalizing things right, and you're like, well, I mean, I got a good deal on him. I know this guy that knows this guy, and the next thing you know, you're dead.
Well, and it's again, Law Enforcement Appreciation Week. When they get one of those overdoses, you're talking about things going into high gear immediately, and the search is on not only for the dealer, but as high as they can get up that chain. They're going for them, and again, unapologetically, we're going to get them as much time as we can.
How many? I know you probably don't have the numbers off the top of your head, but speaking of the fentanyl and the arrest, is that one of the biggest things you're seeing now, even more so than maybe meth?
Meth the biggest.
Yeah,
meth the biggest easily. What fentanyl has brought to the equation is we now have to wait on what we think initially may be a meth case. We've got to wait on the crime lab to do their analysis until we treat it as a meth case or look at it, because there's a good chance there's going to be fentanyl in there.
Yeah.
And that's a program for another day, but the crime lab is man, it's backed up.
I mean, look, I know when they did the law on the Sudafed,
yeah,
and all that stuff, it changed the way they cooked meth, because the meth problem, it seems to have just gotten worse and worse and worse, and I've seen it just absolutely destroy lives.
Well, it's not homemade. It's not being made in Mississippi.
Yeah.
The meth labs, there's not any. We got rid of them.
Yeah. They're bringing it in from out of state, Mexico, and
well, and what you see, and I'm not an expert on it, and I'm oversimplifying it, but marijuana used to come from Mexico, and then we start legalizing it over here. Well, the cartels are looking for a profit. They can't make a profit off marijuana anymore. So then, it's the cocaine, and now it's the poppy seeds.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's by and large coming from Mexico, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I would love to have another come in on a Monday when I have a 2-hour show and we have a whole show about that, because I think there's stuff that people don't know that's going on that would just absolutely blow their minds.
That's right.
We're going to take one more break, and when we come back, I want to talk about jury duty.
Absolutely.
And people's civic duty to serve on jury duty. You're listening to the Clay Edwards Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Clay Edwards Show here on 103.9. We are in the Generator Power Solutions studio. You can reach Generator Power Solutions online at Generator Power Solutions LLC. And if you watched the news last night, it's really, really hard to get you a backup generator for your home right now. So give Jason and them a call. They're one of the best around, and I guarantee they've got a generator ready for you. All right, so we're finishing up with Bubba Bramlett and Paul Holley. And one of the things that Bubba hit me with that he wanted to talk about was jury duty. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to hand it over to you.
Well, it's the there we go. Every time I get an opportunity to speak, I've learned, and this is kind of a recent thing, but I never pass up the opportunity to talk about the importance of jury duty. As a citizen of this country, you have two civic duties: vote and show up for jury duty. And you hear about voting all the time. And with the last presidential election and all, you saw the push for people to vote and get out to vote and register to vote and all the things that go along with that. But just as important, and what goes along with being registered to vote, is you're going to be selected to come to jury duty. And I don't know if it's the majority of people. It's not the majority of people, but there are a lot of people that when they get that jury summons, they look at it the same way they do a speeding ticket, and their first thought is, how do I get out of this? And they start making phone calls trying to get out of it, or they just don't show up. And it's the cornerstone of our legal system. You see, you were talking earlier about Rankin and Madison County being really safe places to live and work and worship. You see other places in the country, not so much. But it's the people that are serving on those juries that set those standards. What's acceptable to them and what's not. Yeah. I can't send somebody to prison for committing a crime. I can. I'm the prosecutor. I can present the facts. But it's going to take a judge or a jury to find them guilty. And what I'll tell someone, I have friends call me up. Can I get out of this jury duty? I'm like, no.
It's civic pride and civic duty.
Yes, and think about it. If your son was accused of committing a crime, you want good jurors listening to that case. You want good jurors. If your daughter is a victim of a crime, you want good, honest, fair jurors to do it. And so many people try to shirk that duty. And it is, to me, and I know I'm a district attorney, but it's the most important thing you can do. It goes right along with voting. And I think if people will just sit back instead of their knee-jerk reaction of, how do I get out of this? It's like a speeding ticket. Pay the speeding ticket. It's not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Same thing with jury duty. If you think about how important it is on a murder case, an armed robbery, whatever, do you want to be the person deciding it, or do you want somebody else deciding it for you?
Yeah, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
That's exactly right.
But I sure want to know those 12 are people that want to be there.
Right.
That's right.
So look, we're going to wrap the show up here. We got about 40 seconds left. I just wanted to thank you guys for coming out. I really enjoyed this. We need to get you back here on a Monday when I got 2 hours, because I just feel like we're just barely pulling the top back on some of the things we could talk about.
Well, and both of us would love to come, and I want to say on behalf of all our law enforcement, our 2 sheriffs, all our chiefs, those guys on the ground, boots on the ground, thank you for what you're doing. I mean, it's tough. It's tough times for those guys, and to have somebody like you that not only backs them but advocates for them. I want you to know we appreciate everything you do.
We appreciate it. Tune in tomorrow. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening. Tune in tomorrow at 7 a.m. as the Clay Edwards Show discusses all that is going on in and around the city of Jackson.
This concludes our broadcast day.
Right here on 103.9 WYAB.